My daughter-in-law said, "Go get groceries, take my car." But I knew she had sabotaged the brakes. I smiled, agreed, and silently handed the keys to her own mother. And that night, one phone call changed everything. There are moments in life when time stops, where your heart beats so loud you can hear it in your ears, where you know with every cell in your body that what you are about to discover will change everything forever. That moment came for me on an October night in the garage of my own home. The house I built brick by brick with my husband 40 years ago. The house where I raised my son. The house that now felt like a prison. My name is Sarah. I am 68 years old, and that night I discovered my daughter-in-law wanted me dead. It was 11 o'clock at night. Everyone was asleep. I couldn't sleep. For months, sleep had slipped through my fingers like water. I was wearing my worn-out blue robe, the one Edward, my late husband, gave me on our last anniversary. My hands were trembling as I held a small flashlight I found in the kitchen drawer. 6 hours earlier, Victoria, my daughter-in-law, had asked me for something with that smile of hers that no longer fooled me. That smile she wore like a mask. "Mother-in-law," she said while painting her nails blood red in the living room, "I need you to go to the supermarket early tomorrow. Take my car. Yours is so old it's pathetic, don't you think? Besides, mine has air conditioning. It'll be good for you." Something in her eyes flashed. It wasn't kindness. It was something cold, calculated. "Your car?" I asked, surprised. Victoria never let me touch anything of hers. Not her clothes, not her perfumes, certainly not her car. Yes, I'm not going to need it. The keys are on the entry table." And she went on painting her nails as if it were nothing, as if she hadn't just offered me something she would never ever offer. That's when the alarm in my head went off. That little voice we sometimes ignore because we don't want to seem paranoid. But I had learned to listen to it. I had learned the hard way. Through humiliation and tears swallowed in silence. That night, when everyone was snoring, I went down to the garage. My bare feet felt the cold cement. The garage smelled like oil and confinement. Victoria's car, a silver gray sedan she showed off as if it were a Mercedes, when in reality they had bought it on credit with money I lent them, was parked next to my old station wagon. I crouched down. I shined the flashlight under the car, and I saw it. A small puddle of liquid, yellowish, oily, brake fluid. My heart stopped. I kept scanning with the flashlight. The hose connecting the master cylinder to the front wheels had a cut. It wasn't an accidental cut. It wasn't wear and tear. It was clean, precise, made with something sharp. Someone had sabotaged this car, and Victoria had asked me to drive it. I sat on the cold garage floor, my back against the wall, and I started to shake. Not from cold, from terror, from rage, from a sadness so deep it ached in my bones. My daughter-in-law, the mother of my grandson, the woman my son had chosen to build a family with. That woman wanted to kill me. It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't my imagination. It was real as the fluid slowly dripping onto the cement. How had I gotten here? How had I allowed my life to become this? To understand, I have to take you back 3 years, to the day Victoria first walked into my house. Perfumed, smiling, dressed like she was going to a party. And I, naive, opened the door with open arms. If I had known then what I know now, I would have locked that door and thrown the key down a well. But I didn't. And so began my descent into hell. Before I continue with what happened after that discovery in the garage, before I tell you how I played my cards and struck back, I need you to understand something. This story is real as the air you breathe. And if you have lived through something similar, if you know someone going through a silent hell within their own family, stay until the end. Because what I did next changed everything. And maybe, just maybe, it can help you too. Subscribe to the channel so you can keep hearing stories like this. Stories of women who refuse to be trampled. Stories that need to be told. Now let's go back to the beginning. To the day I met the snake that almost devoured me whole. 3 years before that night in the garage, I was a different woman. I'm not saying I was completely happy. Edward, My husband had died 5 years earlier of a sudden heart attack while watering the roses in the garden. He fell among the red flowers he loved so much. He died doing what he loved, the neighbors said to comfort me. But I was left alone, with a house that was too big and a silence that hurt. I was 63 then. Gray hair I pulled back in a simple bun, wrinkles I had earned honestly, working, raising my son, caring for my parents until their last breath. My body was no longer young, but I wasn't finished either. I walked to the market every morning. I cooked. I cleaned my house from top to bottom every week. I had my routine, my peace. Edward left me well off, the house valued at $450,000. A vacation property he inherited from his parents valued at almost $300,000, and modest but sufficient savings in the bank. I wasn't rich, but I didn't depend on anyone. And believe me, that is a luxury many women my age do not have. My son Robert came to visit me every Sunday. He would bring pastries from the Hope Bakery, and we would sit in the kitchen drinking coffee. We talked about his job as an engineer at a construction company. He told me about his projects. I would ask him if he was eating well, if he was getting enough rest. The normal things a mother asks. Robert was 35, dark-haired like his father, tall with large calloused hands from work. A good man, or so I thought. One Sunday in March, he arrived differently. His eyes were bright, a smile that didn't fit on his face. "Mom," he said as I poured the coffee, "I met someone." My heart leaped with joy. Finally. I had waited years for my son to find someone to start his own family, to give me grandchildren. "Yes, tell me," I said, sitting across from him. "Her name is Victoria. She's 28. She works in marketing. Mom, she's incredible. I've never felt anything like this." He said it with so much emotion, it was contagious. He talked about her for an hour, about how they met at a gym, about her laugh, how smart she was, how beautiful. "I want to bring her over next Sunday for you to meet her. Is that okay?" "Of course, son. This is your house. It will always be your house." That week I cleaned the house as if I were going to receive the Queen of England. I bought fresh flowers for the dining room table. I made my famous pot roast the dish that came out best for me. I wanted to make a good impression. I wanted that girl to know my son came from a decent family. The following Sunday, the doorbell rang at 2 in the afternoon. I opened the door, and there she was. Victoria was about 5'5", slim, too slim for my taste. The kind you can tell doesn't eat carbs. Long, straight black hair with honey-colored highlights that shone in the sun. She was wearing tight white jeans, a sleeveless fuchsia blouse, high heels even though it was Sunday, and more makeup than I had worn in my entire life. She smelled of expensive perfume, the kind that costs more than $100 for a small bottle. She extended her hand to me. She didn't hug me, just her hand with perfectly manicured nude nails. "A pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Sarah. Robert has told me so much about you." Her voice was sweet, too sweet, like cough syrup. Come in, come in." "What a pleasure to meet you, dear," I said, smiling. They entered. Victoria scanned the living room with her eyes. I saw how her gaze lingered on every detail. The wooden furniture Edward and I bought 30 years ago. The hand-embroidered curtains my mother-in-law made. The family photos in silver frames on the buffet. The painting of the Last Supper on the main wall. "What a traditional house," she said. Traditional. She didn't say cozy. She didn't say pretty. Traditional. As if it were a dusty museum. "Thank you." I replied, not understanding if it was a compliment or not. During the meal, Victoria barely touched the pot roast. "It's a little heavy for me," she said, smiling. Robert ate enough for both of them, praising my cooking as always. Victoria talked a lot about her job at an advertising agency, about the important clients she managed, about the events she went to. She named clothing brands, restaurants, places I had never even heard of. At one point, while I was clearing the plates, I heard her say to Robert in a low voice, but not that low, "Your mom must feel lonely in this big house. Has she ever thought about selling it and buying something smaller?" My blood ran cold. But Robert replied, "My mom loves this house. Her whole life is here." Of course," Victoria said. I'm just saying it must be a lot of work to maintain." When they left, Robert hugged me at the door. "What did you think of her?" I should have told him the truth, that something about that girl I didn't like, that she seemed fake calculating. But I saw his face so in love and I couldn't. "If you're happy, son, I'm happy." A lie. The first of many lies I would tell myself in the following years. The following months, Robert brought Victoria over more and more often. She remained polite, but her comments became sharper. "Sarah, don't you get tired of living alone in this huge house? Robert told me your husband left you very comfortable. How lucky, right? This neighborhood isn't what it used to be. There are much nicer neighborhoods now." And I like a fool smiled and said nothing. One day, I found her alone in my bedroom. She was looking at the photos on my dresser. "Were you looking for something?" I asked from the doorway. She jumped. "Oh, Sarah, I got lost looking for the bathroom." "What lovely photos! Is this that vacation property Robert talks about?" How did she know about the property? "Yes," I replied dryly. "It must be worth a fortune, with the tourist area growing so much." She smiled and left my room. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something was wrong, very wrong, but I still didn't know to what extent. 6 months after meeting her, Robert arrived with news. "Mom, I asked Victoria to marry me," and she said yes. I should have cried with joy. Instead, I felt a weight in my stomach. "Congratulations, son," I said, hugging him. But inside, a little voice was screaming at me, "Be careful, watch your son, watch your house." I didn't listen to that voice. And that was my second big mistake, because what came next was worse than I could have ever imagined. The wedding became my first great defeat. Victoria arrived at my house on a Tuesday afternoon, without warning. She carried a thick folder full of papers, magazines, and a smile that no longer tried to hide her ambition. "Mother-in-law, we need to talk about the wedding," she said, sitting in my living room as if she owned it. I was preparing iced tea. I dried my hands on my apron and sat across from her. "Of course, dear. Tell me what you have planned." She opened the folder. She pulled out photos of reception halls that looked like palaces, menus with French names I didn't even understand, dresses that cost what I used to earn in 6 months when I worked. "Look, this is what we want. A garden in that resort town overlooking the valley. 200 guests, a 5-course dinner, a band. Premium open bar, and obviously my dress has to be from the Casa Real boutique." She started mentioning numbers. $5,000 for the venue, $8,000 for the food, $4,000 for the dress, $2,000 for the flowers, $3,000 for the music. "Victoria," I interrupted her, "that adds up to over $20,000. $32,000, to be exact." She corrected without flinching. "It's an investment. We only get married once, right?" I stayed quiet, processing. "And Robert and I thought that as the mother of the groom you could contribute to the main expenses." "It's tradition, isn't it? Besides, Robert is your only son. This will be your only chance to see your son get married." There it was, the manipulation, the emotional blackmail wrapped in pretty words. "Victoria, $32,000 is a lot of money. But you have it, Sarah. Robert told me about your savings. We're not asking you to sell the house or anything like that. Just to support us in this very important moment." She leaned forward. "Besides, think about the grandchildren. We'll give you grandchildren soon. Don't you want your son to have a beautiful memory of his wedding?" She used my future grandchildren as a weapon, and it worked. "Let me think about it," I said with a broken voice. "Of course, but we need to book the venue this week. If not, we lose it." She left, leaving the folder on the table, as if she already knew I was going to give in. That night I spoke with Robert on the phone. "Son, your girlfriend came to talk about the wedding." "I know, Mom. Look, I know it's a lot of money. But Victoria is right. It's once in a lifetime. And I don't earn enough yet to pay for all that. My savings are barely enough for a down payment on an apartment. Are you already looking at apartments?" "Yes, we want to move out on our own soon." "Well, we can't live mooching off you." Mooching? As if I were the owner of a boarding house. "Robert, you will never be mooching in my house. This is your house." "I know, Mom, but I'm 35. I need my own space, my own family. I heard background noise, Victoria's voice. I didn't understand what she was saying, but the tone was urgent. Mom, I have to go. So, are you going to help us with the wedding? I sighed. Yes, son. I'll help you. Thanks, Mom. I love you. He hung up before I could answer. The next day, I went to the bank. I withdrew $32,000 from my savings. The money Edward and I saved with so much effort, the money that was my cushion for emergencies, for my old age, so I wouldn't depend on anyone. I handed it to Victoria in an envelope. I expected a hug, a sincere thank you, something. What I got was, "Perfect, Sarah. It's about time." We almost lost the venue, and she put the envelope in her Gucci bag without even opening it to check. The wedding was in June, in a beautiful garden, just as Victoria wanted. She looked radiant in her fitted white dress, Robert nervous but happy in his gray suit. I wore a navy blue dress I bought at a thrift store. I spent too much on the wedding. I wasn't going to spend more on my clothes. During the ceremony, I cried. But not with joy. I cried because I saw my son promising his life to a woman who only saw numbers where there should be love. I cried because I knew deep in my heart that this would end badly. At the reception, Victoria didn't introduce me to her family as my mother-in-law. She introduced me as Sarah Roberts' mom, as if I were an accessory, a secondary figure. Her mother Florence was a humble woman, short, dark-skinned, with hands rough from work. She cleaned houses for a living. You could tell she had made a huge effort to pay for her simple dress and shoes. "A pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Sarah," she told me with a genuine smile. "What a beautiful wedding, right? I couldn't contribute much, but my daughter looks happy, and that's what matters." I liked her immediately. She did have humility. She did have a heart. Victoria barely spoke to her during the whole party. She sat her at a table in the back far from the main table. Florence didn't complain. She just watched her daughter with a mix of pride and sadness. The wedding ended. The newlyweds went on their honeymoon to Cancun. 5 days at an all-inclusive hotel that of course also came out of my savings, although Robert never asked me directly. Victoria mentioned it in passing. It would be nice to have a honeymoon, but oh well with the wedding expenses. And I like an idiot transferred $5,000 more to her. When they returned tanned and smiling, I received the news. Victoria was pregnant. "Mom, you're going to be a grandmother," Robert told me, hugging me tightly. I should have felt pure joy. Instead, I felt fear. Because 2 weeks later, Robert came to my house alone. He sat at the kitchen table with a worried look. "Mom, I need to ask you a favor." My stomach tightened. "Of course, son, tell me." "Victoria is pregnant. Her apartment is very small, and with the baby on the way. Could we stay here?" "Just temporarily, until the baby is born and we save up for a down payment on a bigger place." "What do you say?" I should have said no. I should have set boundaries. I should have protected my space, my peace, my home. But I saw my son's eyes. The same eyes I saw when he was 5, asking me to bandage his scraped knee. And I couldn't. "Of course, son, this is your house." I signed my death warrant with those words. A week later, Victoria and Robert arrived with suitcases, boxes, furniture. They occupied the 2 main bedrooms, the one that had been Robert's when he was a child, and the guest room that had the largest closet. They told me, "Sarah, would you mind moving to the room in the back? It's smaller but cooler, and that way the baby can be close to us." The room in the back, the one that had been the old pantry, 6 feet by 9, a small window that overlooked the back alley, no closet, just a single bed and an old nightstand. "Of course," I said. "No problem." I moved my things in silence, my clothes in cardboard boxes because they didn't fit anywhere, the photos of Edward stacked under the bed, my life reduced to a small, dark room that smelled damp. The first night in that room, lying on that squeaky bed, looking at the stains on the ceiling, I understood something. My house was no longer mine, and this was just the beginning. Emile was born on a Tuesday in February at 3 in the morning. I was in the hospital waiting room wearing an old sweater and my hair in a messy braid. Robert went in and out of the delivery room, pale, nervous, clutching his cell phone as if it were a lifeline. After 8 hours of labor, I heard the cry, that sharp cry that announces new life. Robert came out with red eyes. "It's a boy, Mom. A beautiful boy." I hugged him. In that moment, everything else disappeared. I was going to be a grandmother. I had a grandson. They let me go in to see them. Victoria was in bed, sweaty, disheveled, but with that triumphant smile of someone who has just won something important. She was holding a small bundle wrapped in a blue blanket. "Come, Sarah. Meet Emile." I approached. I saw that wrinkled red face, the closed eyes, the clenched fists. My heart melted. "Hello, my love," I whispered. "Welcome to the world." Victoria placed him in my arms. He weighed almost nothing. He smelled like powder and miracles. "You're going to help me a lot with him, right, Sarah?" Victoria said with a tired voice, "because I don't know anything about babies, and Robert works all day." I should have heard the alarm in those words. But I was mesmerized looking at my grandson. "Of course, dear, that's what I'm here for." I didn't know I had just signed a contract of slavery. The first few days were beautiful. Emile cried, ate, slept. I helped with what I could. I warmed bottles, washed his clothes, rocked the baby when Victoria needed to rest. But the honeymoon lasted 1 week. One night, Emile wouldn't stop crying. It was 2 a.m. I was in my small room trying to sleep when I heard knocking on my door. "Sarah, Sarah, wake up." I opened it. Victoria was there in pink satin pajamas with the crying baby in her arms and an expression of fury. "He won't stop crying. I can't take it anymore. You have experience. You raised Robert. Take him." She put the baby in my arms and went to her bedroom. She locked the door. I stood there in the dark hallway with my grandson wailing, not understanding what had just happened. I took him to my little room. I changed his diaper. It was dirty. I prepared a bottle for him. He was hungry. I rocked him for an hour until he fell asleep in my arms. At 5 a.m, when I finally put him in his crib and got into my bed, I could barely close my eyes before my alarm went off. I had to get up to make breakfast. That was the first night. But not the last. It became routine. Victoria woke me up every night. Sarah, the baby. And I, like an automaton, got up, changing diapers, preparing bottles, rocking, washing mountains of baby clothes that never ended, sterilizing bottles, cleaning the baby's room that Victoria dirtied and never picked up. During the day while Emile slept, Victoria watched TV. She painted her nails. She talked on the phone with her friends. She went out for air and came back 3 hours later with bags of new clothes. I cooked, I cleaned, I washed, I ironed. I took care of the baby. Robert left at 7 a.m. and returned at 8 p.m. He arrived, tired, defeated, with slumped shoulders. He ate whatever I left covered on the stove, kissed Emile goodbye, and went to his room. One Sunday, I tried to talk to him. "Son, I need to talk to you." He was sitting in the living room watching football with the volume low so as not to wake the baby. "Tell me, Mom." I sat next to him. I searched for the right words. "Robert, I am happy to help with Emile. He's my grandson and I love him. But I feel like I'm doing everything. Victoria doesn't get up at night, she doesn't change diapers, she doesn't cook. I understand she had a difficult delivery, but it's been 3 months and—" "Mom, please." He interrupted me without looking at me. "Victoria has postpartum depression. The doctor said so." "Did she go to the doctor?" "Well, not officially, but she feels it. She's very sensitive. And I can't leave work. With the baby, the expenses have tripled. If I start arguing with her, she'll drive me crazy. You have experience. You know how this is. I'm just asking you, help us a little more, just a little more until she feels better." A little more. Those 3 words became my chains. "Okay, son." But it wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. Victoria stopped calling me mother-in-law. Now it was just Sarah. "Sarah, breakfast." "Sarah, iron this blouse. I need it for today." "Sarah, take this to the dry cleaner." "Sarah, sweep the living room. It's full of crumbs." As if I were her employee. No, worse. An employee gets paid, gets days off, is told thank you. I received none of that. One afternoon, while I was folding baby clothes in the living room, I heard Victoria talking on the phone with someone. She was on the patio, but her voice carried through the thin walls. "Yes, girl, I swear. I live like a queen. I have someone who cooks, cleans, takes care of the baby. It's like having a free nanny, but better, because you don't have to pay her. And the best part is that Robert thinks his mom does it because she wants to. He says she loves to help." She laughed a sharp, mocking laugh. "I just have to say I'm tired, and she does everything. It's the best thing that ever happened to me." I froze with a baby diaper in my hands. Is that how she saw me, as a free nanny? That night I didn't eat dinner. I wasn't hungry. I went to my little room, sat on the bed, and for the first time in months I cried. I cried for Edward, who would have defended me. I cried for the house I no longer felt was mine. I cried for the respect I had lost. I cried for my son, who had become blind. But most of all, I cried for myself, for the woman I was, whom I no longer recognized in the mirror. I was 65, deep wrinkles that weren't there a year ago, purple circles under my eyes from sleepless nights, hands rough from so much washing, my hair whiter, thinner. I was wasting away, fading, and Victoria knew it, and she didn't care. The worst was yet to come, because a week later something happened that broke me completely. There are humiliations that hurt in the moment, and there are humiliations that scar you forever. Mine arrived on a Saturday in July. It was hot, one of those sticky hot days where even breathing is hard work. I was in the kitchen preparing iced tea when I heard the doorbell ring. Victoria shouted from her bedroom, "Sarah, get the door. It's my sister." I dried my hands on my apron and went to open it. Jessica, Victoria's sister, was a younger, more done-up version of her. 22 years old, bleached blonde hair, fake eyelashes, ripped jeans that probably cost more than my entire month's wardrobe. "Hey," she said without smiling, chewing gum. She walked in without waiting for an invitation. "Come in, make yourself at home," I said to the air because she already had. Victoria came down the stairs. She was wearing a short white dress, heels, perfect makeup, as if she were going to a party and not staying home on a Saturday afternoon. "Sister." They hugged as if they hadn't seen each other in years, even though Jessica had been there last week. Robert was in the living room playing with Emile on the floor. The baby was laughing as his dad made funny faces. The sisters sat on the sofa. I went back to the kitchen, but I could hear everything from there. The door was open and they were talking loudly, as if I didn't exist, or worse, as if it didn't matter if I heard. "So how are things?" Jessica asked. "Good, good." "We're getting settled here," Victoria replied. "And your mother-in-law, doesn't it bother you living with her?" Silence, a heavy silence that made me stop the knife I was using to cut lemons. "Look," Victoria said in a casual voice, "it's complicated, but in the end it works. Come on, let me introduce you properly." I heard footsteps. My heart was pounding. I came out of the kitchen, wiping my hands on my apron. Victoria pointed at me as if pointing at a piece of furniture. "Jessica, this is Sarah. She lives here because she has nowhere else to go. We give her room and board. She helps us with the house and the baby." She paused, smiled. "Although honestly, she's kind of a burden now. But well, Robert is too noble and doesn't want to leave her all alone." The world stopped. I had nowhere to go. They gave me room and board. This was my house. The house I built with my husband. The house I paid for every brick. The house where I was hosting them. I looked at Robert. He was right there 5 yards away. He heard everything. I waited. I waited for him to stand up to defend his mother, to put his wife in her place. But Robert just looked down. He hugged Emile tighter to his chest, and he said nothing. Nothing. Jessica looked at me with fake pity. Wow, it's a good thing my sister is so generous. Not everyone can stand living with their mother-in-law, right? I couldn't speak. I had a knot in my throat the size of a fist. Victoria laughed. "Well, it is what it is. Come on, sister, I'll show you the baby's room I decorated." They went up the stairs. Their laughter echoed through the house. My house. I stood there in the middle of the living room. Robert was still on the floor with Emile. He wouldn't look at me. "Son," I said, my voice trembling. "Mom, please, not now. Not now. Did you hear what your wife said? He stood up with the baby in his arms. He finally looked at me. His eyes were tired, empty. Mom, Victoria didn't mean it in a bad way. She was just talking. Don't be so sensitive. Sensitive. Sensitive, she said. I'm a burden, that you give me shelter in my own house. Mom, lower your voice. You're going to scare the baby. He started walking towards the stairs. We'll talk later. Okay, right now I don't have the energy for drama. Drama. My pain was drama to him. He left. He left me standing there, alone. I went into my little room in the back. I closed the door. I sat on the bed and covered my mouth with both hands so I wouldn't scream. For the first time in my life, I felt hatred, real hatred, boiling in my veins. That night, I didn't come out for dinner. Victoria didn't even ask for me. Jessica stayed late. I heard their laughter, their music, the clinking of wine glasses. At 11 at night, when everything was quiet, I came out. I was thirsty. I needed water. I passed by Victoria and Robert's bedroom. The door was slightly open. I heard Robert's voice. Was it necessary to say that in front of your sister? Say what? Victoria sounded bored. That stuff about my mom, that she's a burden. Oh, Robert, don't exaggerate. It was a joke. It didn't sound like a joke. Well, your mom is just too delicate. Everything offends her. Besides, it's true. She's not young anymore. She doesn't contribute anything. She just wastes water, electricity, food. She's my mom, Victoria. And I am your wife, the mother of your child. Who are you going to prioritize? Silence. Exactly, she continued. Look, I'm not saying you kick her out, but you can't defend her all the time either. She needs to understand her place here. Her place. In her own house. I walked away before I heard more. I didn't get any water. I went back to my little room. That night I stared at the ceiling for hours, processing, understanding. My son had chosen, and he didn't choose me. The following days were mechanical. I went through my routine like a robot. Cook, clean, care for the baby. I didn't speak more than necessary. A week later, I went to look for something in my closet. Well, the boxes where I kept my clothes in the little room. I wanted to wear the white gold earrings Edward gave me for our 25th anniversary. I didn't wear them often. They were special, heavy, elegant, with small diamonds. It took me years to convince him to buy them for me. They're too expensive, he'd say. But on our anniversary, he showed up with the little blue box and shining eyes. You deserve everything, my love. I opened my jewelry box, a small wooden box that Edward made for me by hand. The earrings weren't there. I checked again. I took everything out. My mom's rings, my first communion necklace, the cheap earrings from the flea market. But the white gold earrings were not there. They were worth $500. I had them appraised last year. My heart pounded. I checked under the bed, in the boxes, in every corner of the little room. Nothing. There was only one explanation. Someone took them. I left the room. Victoria was in the living room painting her nails while watching a soap opera. Emil was sleeping in his playpen. Victoria, have you seen some white gold earrings? They were in my jewelry box. She didn't even look up from her nails. No, I don't go through your things. They were there 2 weeks ago, and now they're gone. She looked up. Her eyes were cold as ice. Are you accusing me of being a thief? No, I'm just asking. Robert, she shouted. Robert, come here. My son ran down the stairs. What's wrong? Victoria stood up. Now she was looking at me with theatrical fury. Your mother is accusing me of stealing her earrings. No, I didn't say that. I started. Yes, you did. You asked me if I had seen them, implying I took them. Do you think I need to steal your old jewelry? She pointed to the gold earrings she was wearing. I have my own things, and better quality. Victoria, calm down, Robert said. Mom, what happened? Son, the earrings your father gave me are missing, the white gold ones. I kept them in my jewelry box, and they're gone. Robert sighed, the kind of sigh that tells you you've already lost before you even start. Mom, maybe you moved them and don't remember. Or you put them somewhere else. Robert, I know where I keep my things. So what are you saying, that Victoria stole them? I didn't say that, but you're implying it. Victoria said, crossing her arms. "You know what? This is the last straw. Here I am trying to treat you well, giving you your space, and you accuse me of being a thief. I'm not going to tolerate it. Mom." Robert put his hand on my shoulder. "Apologize to Victoria." The world went blurry. "What? Apologize? You can't go around accusing people without proof." "Let's keep the peace, okay? The peace, always the peace, even if it was at the cost of my dignity." I looked at Victoria. She was smiling, barely, a smile of victory. I swallowed. "I'm sorry, Victoria. I didn't mean to imply anything." "You better not have," she replied. And she went back to painting her nails. I went up to my little room, I closed the door, I sat on the floor, and something inside me died that day. The submissive Sarah, the tolerant Sarah, the trusting Sarah. That woman died. And in her place, something new was born. Something silent, something dangerous. A woman who no longer had anything to lose. The months passed like murky water, thick, heavy. I continued my zombie routine. Get up at 6, make breakfast, care for a meal, clean, cook, wash, go to bed late, sleep little, repeat. Victoria treated me worse and worse. She didn't even bother to hide it anymore. "Sarah, this is cold. Make it again." "Sarah, you ironed this shirt wrong. Are you blind or what?" "Sarah, the baby smells dirty. Didn't you bathe him today?" And I kept quiet. I obeyed, like a trained dog. Robert was barely around. He left before dawn and returned after Emile was asleep. On weekends, he locked himself in his bedroom with excuses of catching up on work. My son was hiding. From me, from reality, from his own cowardice. One Tuesday in November, Emile had a fever. Nothing serious, but he was crying nonstop. Victoria had gone to the beauty salon, leaving me with the sick baby. "If he gets worse, take him to the doctor," she ordered before leaving. "And call Robert to pay for the consultation." I spent the morning rocking my grandson. I put warm compresses on his forehead. I gave him his medicine. Slowly the fever went down, and he fell asleep in my arms. I took him to his crib. But before leaving the room, I remembered Victoria had asked me to look for the digital thermometer. "It should be in my nightstand," she had said. I went into her bedroom. The bed unmade clothes thrown everywhere, expensive perfume bottles on the dresser, department store bags in the corners. I opened the nightstand drawer, and my world changed. There, among tissues and hand creams, were documents. My heart started to race. I shouldn't be snooping, but something told me to look. I took out the papers. My hands were shaking. The first one was a recent appraisal of my house dated 3 weeks ago. $460,000 was the updated value. The second was a quote from a notary's office. Property title transfer fees, $8,500. The third one chilled my blood. It was a draft of a purchase agreement. The house, my house, in the name of Victoria M. Salazar. Not Robert, Victoria. I kept reading, my eyes clouded by tears I didn't know were from rage or sadness. The seller, Sarah Ramirez, widow, transfers all rights to the property located at... There was a number, $80,000. $80,000 for a house worth over $400,000. Reading further down, I understood the plan. It was a family agreement, where I supposedly sold the house for that ridiculous amount in exchange for them caring for me in my old age. But the money would never reach me because there was a clause where that money would be used to buy me a small apartment suitable for an elderly person. Translation: they would take my house, give me a cheap little apartment, and keep the difference. And with the vacation property, they didn't even bother with a draft. There was a handwritten note by Victoria. "Vacation property. Sell directly afterward. Valued at $280K. Find a direct buyer to avoid taxes." I felt the floor move beneath my feet. I took out my cell phone. With trembling hands, I photographed every document, every page, every note. I put everything back exactly as it was. I closed the drawer. I left the bedroom. I went to my little room. I sat on the bed. I looked at the photos on my phone over and over. It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't my imagination. Victoria wanted to steal everything from me. My house, my land, my inheritance. And the worst part, Robert had to know. Because these documents don't just appear. You have to go to the notary, request appraisals, sign quotes. My son was in on the plan. Or he was such a coward that he let his wife do whatever she wanted. I don't know which of those two options hurt more. That night when Robert got home from work, I waited for him in the kitchen. Victoria was upstairs bathing Emil. "Son, we need to talk." "Mom, I'm tired." "Can it wait?" "No, it can't." He sat across from me with a look of annoyance, as if I were a pending task. "Robert, are you planning to stay here forever?" He hesitated. "Mom, don't start with that. Answer me. How much longer are you going to live here?" He sighed. He rubbed his eyes. "Honestly, Mom, I don't know. Apartments are crazy expensive. With the baby, the expenses are high. We're saving, but... And what about this house? What about it? It's too big for me alone, don't you think?" He looked up. His eyes shined with something. Hope, relief. "Well, yeah, Victoria and I have been thinking about that. This house is too big for one person. And with the maintenance costs, the electricity, the water..." He leaned forward. "Mom, we've been thinking that maybe it would be good for you to sell it." There it was, no anesthesia. "Sell it." "Yeah, and with that money you could buy a small apartment. Something comfortable, no stairs, safer for you. And whatever is left over you could invest or save for your old age. We could move out on our own too. It would be good for everyone." He was talking fast, as if he had rehearsed it, as if they were Victoria's words coming out of his mouth. "And what would you do? We'd look for our own house. Or a bigger apartment. I don't know. We haven't decided yet." Liar. Cowardly liar. "I see." I said, my voice calm. Too calm. "And when were you planning to tell me this?" "I'm telling you now, Mom. It's not an order. It's just a suggestion for you to think about." I smiled. A smile that didn't reach my eyes. "I'll think about it, son." He relaxed. "Thanks, Mom. I knew you'd understand." He got up and went upstairs. I stayed seated in the kitchen where I prepared thousands of meals for him, where I bandaged his scraped knees when he was a child, where we celebrated his birthdays, his graduations, his triumphs. And now he was asking me to leave. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling. I thought. I calculated. I planned. Because something broke inside me that night. The forgiving Sarah, the trusting Sarah, the Sarah who put her family above all else. That woman died, and in her place a woman was born who had learned the hardest lesson. When they take everything from you, the only thing you have left is cunning. And I, who had been a fool for 3 years, was ready to stop being one. Victoria and Robert wanted to play dirty. Perfect. I would teach them how you play when an old woman decides she has nothing left to lose. Because they made one mistake. A fatal mistake. They underestimated the old woman. The next day I woke up different. No longer submissive. No longer silent. No longer an idiot. But I wasn't going to confront them directly either. That would be a mistake. Victoria was a professional manipulator. Robert was under her control. If I confronted them, they would make me look like the bitter mother-in-law, the crazy old woman, the troublemaker. No, I had to be smart. I had breakfast with them as if nothing was wrong. I smiled. I served the coffee. I gave Emil his baby food while Victoria checked her cell phone and Robert read the newspaper. "Did you think about what we talked about yesterday, Mom?" Robert asked without looking up from the paper. "Yes, son." "It seems reasonable. Let me find out a few things first. Prices of apartments, things like that." Victoria looked up from her phone. She looked at me with barely concealed surprise. "Really, Sarah? That's great that you're seeing it with maturity." "A change will do you good." I smiled. "Yes, dear, you're right." I almost choked on my own falsehood. But it worked. Victoria went back to her phone satisfied. I waited for them both to leave. Robert to work Victoria to her yoga class that she never missed. I was left alone with Emil. I put him in his playpen with his toys and took out my cell phone. I looked for a number I hadn't dialed in years. Stella, my best friend, my friend of over 40 years. We met when our sons were in elementary school. She had been a lawyer. She retired 5 years ago, but she was still the sharpest woman I knew. The phone rang 3 times. Hello? Stella, it's Sarah. Sarah? What a miracle, I haven't heard from you in months. How are you? My voice broke. I need your help. Silence on the other end. Then, in a serious voice, what happened? I can't talk over the phone. Can you come over? I'm on my way. Stella arrived an hour later, tall, thin, with short white hair, thick-rimmed glasses, and that gaze that always saw beyond the words. We sat in the small backyard that no one used. Emil was taking his nap. I told her everything, every detail, from the wedding to the documents in the nightstand. Stella didn't interrupt me. She just listened, nodding occasionally, her jaw getting tighter and tighter. When I finished, there was a long silence. That witch, she finally said. Stella never cursed. That showed me how angry she was. I don't know what to do, Stella. He's my son, but he's betraying me. Your son is a cowardly fool. Forgive me for saying it like that, but it's the truth. She took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes. That woman is a con artist. And your son is either her accomplice or he's so idiotic he can't see what's happening right in front of him. What do I do? Stella put her glasses back on. Her look was hard calculating, the look of the lawyer she once was. First, that house is in your name, right? Yes. Edward left it only to me in his will. And the vacation property. That too. Perfect. Then they have to force you to sign. And that's where your power is. She leaned forward. Sarah, listen to me carefully. What they are planning is fraud. They are trying to strip you of your assets using manipulation. If they succeed and you regret it later, you could sue and win. But for that, you need proof. I have photos of the documents. Excellent, but we need more. We need it to be clear that they are pressuring you, that it's not your free will. How? Stella thought for a moment. Her fingers drummed on the rusty iron table. We need recordings. Conversations where it's clear they are manipulating you. Where they admit the house is worth more than what they want to pay you. Where the pressure is obvious. How do I record without them noticing? There are ways. You can buy a small camera. One of those spy cam types. They sell them online for less than $100. You put it in your little room aiming at the living room or the kitchen. You record the conversations when they talk about the house, when they mistreat you, when they say things that incriminate them. My heart was racing. This was more than I imagined, but it made sense. And if they discover the camera, you hide it well, in a bookshelf behind a picture frame in a decoration. Those cameras are tiny. Do you really think this will work? Stella took my hands. Her hands were cold but firm. Sarah, that woman wants to leave you on the street, and your son is letting her. You didn't ask for this war. But if you don't defend yourself, you're going to lose everything. Your house, your dignity, your future. She squeezed my hands. You are 68 years old. If you're left without assets now, what are you going to do? What will you live on? She was right. Everything I had in the world was in that house and that land. If I lost them, I would be adrift, depending on the charity of a son who no longer respected me and a daughter-in-law who hated me. Okay, I said. I'll do it. Stella smiled. That's the spirit. Now act normal. Keep up your routine. Let them think you're considering selling. Meanwhile, document everything. And after we'll see. Maybe with the evidence we can confront them and negotiate. Or maybe you'll have to kick them out of your house. Because it's your house, Sarah, not theirs, and they need to remember that. We hugged. I felt like I got a piece of myself back that I had lost. Thank you, my friend. That's what we're here for. And Sarah, be careful. If that woman is capable of stealing your house, she's capable of anything. I didn't know how true those words were until weeks later. Stella left. I acted as if nothing had happened. That afternoon, I bought the camera online. $89. It arrived 3 days later in a small package. I installed it, hidden in a picture frame I had on a shelf in the living room. From there, it had a perfect view of the kitchen and the living room, and it had a sensitive microphone that picked up conversations from several yards away. I started recording. The first week, I didn't capture much. Just mundane conversations. Victoria complaining about the traffic, Robert talking about his work. But the second week, I recorded pure gold. It was a Wednesday night. I was in my little room, supposedly asleep. But I had the camera recording and my cell phone connected to watch live what it captured. Victoria and Robert were in the living room drinking wine, talking in low voices. "Have you asked her again?" Victoria asked. "Yes. She says she's thinking about it, checking prices." "She's been thinking for weeks. She's stalling." "Give her time, Victoria. It's her house. It's not easy for her." "Robert, I'm fed up. We've been here almost 2 years. This house is worth almost $500,000, and you want to give her $80,000. Do you realize the profit? With that, we pay off this place. We buy the luxury condo I want downtown, and we'll have money left over for the new car I need." I know, but she's my mom." "Your mom already lived. She had her house, her marriage, her life. Now it's our turn. She doesn't need all this space by herself. A small 2-bedroom apartment is fine for her. And if she refuses—" There was a silence, then Victoria's voice cold as a knife. "Then we pressure her more. We make her life impossible until she signs. Besides, what's she going to do, kick us out? If she kicked us out, she'd be all alone. And you know she's terrified of being alone." My stomach twisted. "I don't know, Victoria. It feels so low." "Oh, Robert, don't be naive. That's how the world works. The smart take advantage of the stupid. Your mom was lucky to marry your dad, who left her all this. Now it's our turn. I guess you're right." "Of course I'm right. We just need her to sign. After that, she won't even be able to complain. The transfer will be legal, and if she regrets it, what's she going to do, sue us?" "With what money? She doesn't have money for a lawyer." They laughed, both of them. I turned off my cell phone. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped it. I had them confessing their plan, admitting they wanted to scam me. The next morning, I sent the video to Stella. She called me an hour later. "Sarah, this is perfect. With this, we can prove intent to defraud. If it goes to court, you win." But she paused. "Be very careful. That woman is dangerous, and we don't know how far she's capable of going." I should have listened to her. I should have been more careful, because what Victoria planned next almost cost me my life. 2 more weeks passed. I kept recording, acting normal, smiling when I had to, staying quiet when they insulted me. But inside, something had changed. I wasn't the same. Victoria noticed I wasn't giving in on the house. Every time Robert brought up the subject, I said, "I'm looking into it. Give me more time." And that was making her desperate. I started to notice strange things. Victoria went out more often. Sometimes she came back with shopping bags. Other times she came back smelling like cigarettes, even though she didn't smoke. One afternoon, 3 days before the incident in the garage, I heard a conversation that chilled my blood. I was in my little room. They were in the living room. The camera recorded everything. "I can't wait anymore," Victoria said in a tense voice. "Your mother has to sign those deeds, or we're going to find another way." "What other way?" Robert asked, his voice tired. "I don't know, but we have to think of something. We've been living here for 2 years, 2 years putting up with her. And now that we're about to get what we want, she's playing hard to get. Victoria, give her time. I'll convince her." "Time, we've wasted enough time." There was a silence. Then she continued in a lower voice. "We need her to feel vulnerable. To understand that she needs us, that without us, she'd be lost." "What are you proposing?" "We'll see. But something has to happen to make her understand." I didn't hear anymore. My heart was beating too hard. Something has to happen. What did that mean? The next day, Victoria left early. She told Robert she was going to the gynecologist, but something in my gut told me it was a lie. I waited half an hour. Then I took a taxi and followed her. The taxi stopped 2 blocks behind hers. I saw her go into a mechanic's shop in a bad part of town. It wasn't the shop where they always took the car. It was a small, dirty place with rusty fences. Victoria went in. She spoke to a man. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I saw her take money out of her purse. Cash. A lot of it. I counted it later in my mind. I estimated about $500. The man took the money. He nodded. Victoria smiled. 10 minutes later, she came out. She left in her car. I stayed there in the taxi with a bad feeling burning in my stomach. "Should we go back, ma'am?" the taxi driver asked. "Yes, home." I didn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned thinking about what I had seen. Why did Victoria pay off a shady mechanic? What did she ask him to do? 2 days later, on a Thursday, it happened. I was in the kitchen preparing lunch. Victoria came down the stairs. She was wearing a yellow dress, heels, perfect makeup, as if she were going to a party. "Sarah," she said with a strange smile, "I need you to do me a favor." "What do you need?" "Tomorrow morning I need you to go to the supermarket. We're out of everything and we need to buy groceries for the week." "Of course I'll go in the morning." "No, wait. I want you to take my car." I froze with the knife in my hand. "Your car?" "Yes. Yours is too old. It's embarrassing. Besides, mine has air conditioning and it's going to be hot tomorrow." "It'll be good for you." Victoria never lent me her car. She didn't even let me touch it. She said I drove badly, that I was too slow, that I would scratch her paint. And now she was offering it to me. "Don't worry, Victoria. My station wagon is fine." "I insist, Sarah. Use mine. I'm not going to need it tomorrow. I'm staying home all day. The keys are on the entry table." There was something in her voice, something forced, something fake. She stared at me as if waiting for my answer. "Well, okay, thank you." She smiled a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Perfect. So, tomorrow morning you go in my car." "Yes." "Yes." She left. I heard her go upstairs, talk to Robert, laugh. I stayed in the kitchen with a knot in my stomach that grew and grew. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation. The mechanic shop. The money. Victoria's insistence that I use her car. At 11 o'clock at night, when everything was silent, I got up. I put on my blue robe. I took the small flashlight from my room. I went down the stairs without making a sound. The garage was dark. It smelled like oil and dampness. I turned on the flashlight. I illuminated Victoria's car, a silver-gray sedan, clean gleaming, her pride. I crouched down. I shined the light under the car, and I saw it. A small puddle, yellowish oily, brake fluid. My heart stopped beating. I got closer. I followed the light along the hoses connecting the master cylinder to the wheels. The hose for the front left brake had a cut. Clean, precise, made with something sharp. It wasn't wear and tear. It wasn't an accident. It was sabotage. I sat on the cold garage floor, my back against the wall, my legs trembling. Victoria had ordered the brakes on her own car to be cut, and she had insisted that I be the one to use it. The pieces clicked into place in my head like a gruesome puzzle. If I went out in that car tomorrow morning, if I went to the supermarket, which was 20 minutes away, if I took the highway that has that steep downhill slope, the brakes would fail. I would crash. I would probably die, and it would look like an accident. "Poor Mrs. Sarah," they would say. "So elderly. She shouldn't have been driving. What a tragedy." Victoria would be in the clear. She would have witnesses. I lent her my car to help her. How was I supposed to know the brakes would fail? How awful! And Robert would inherit everything. The house, the land, everything. And Victoria would control it all through him. It was the perfect plan, almost perfect. Because she made one mistake. She underestimated me. She thought I was a stupid old woman who would do whatever she said without question, but I wasn't that woman anymore. I got up from the garage floor. My legs were still shaking, but my mind was clear. Cold, calculating. Victoria wanted to play with death. Perfect. I would teach her how the game is played. I went up to my little room. I took out my cell phone. I opened my contact list. I looked for a number I hadn't used in months. Mrs. Florence, Victoria's mother. That humble woman who cleaned houses to survive, whom Victoria treated with contempt, whom they sat in the back at the wedding. I dialed the number. 3 rings. 4. "Hello?" Florence's sleepy voice. "Mrs. Florence, it's Sarah, your daughter's mother-in-law." "I'm sorry to call you so late." "Sarah, did something happen? Is Emil okay?" "Everyone is fine. I'm sorry to bother you at this hour, but I need to ask you a favor for tomorrow." "Of course, tell me." "You see, I have a doctor's appointment early tomorrow, very early, at 7 in the morning. My station wagon broke down and Victoria lent me her car, but you know I drive very badly." I lied with a sweet voice. Could you drive me? I would pay for the gas, of course." "Oh, Mrs. Sarah, of course. Don't worry about it." "What time should I pick you up?" 6:30 would be perfect." "And Mrs. Florence, one more thing. Victoria told me it would be better to use her car so you don't waste gas from your car." "What if you come by for the keys and use hers? That way you don't spend—" There was a pause. "My daughter lent you her car for me." The pain in her voice broke my heart. Victoria never lent her own mother anything. "Yes, she's very busy tomorrow and won't need it." "It would be a favor for me, too. I'd feel safer going with you in a car with good air conditioning." "Well, if you say she's okay with it—" "Completely. I'll leave the keys on the entry table. Just ring the bell and I'll open it. Everyone will still be asleep." "Okay, Mrs. Sarah. I'll be there." "Thank you, Mrs. Florence. Rest well." I hung up. I sat on the bed. My hands were still shaking, but now it was different. It wasn't fear. It was something darker, colder. What had I just done? I had just given the keys to the sabotaged car to Victoria's mother. If Florence went out in that car tomorrow, the brakes would fail. She would have the accident that Victoria planned for me. I put my hands to my face. Was I capable of this, of using an innocent woman as a pawn? But Florence isn't going to die, I told myself. I'll call the police beforehand. I'll tell them about the sabotage. I'll send the photos, the recordings, everything. This was just to expose Victoria, to make it clear that she cut those brakes, to kill me, or whoever drove that car. That was the question that would destroy her. I lay down on the bed. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just waited for dawn, for the day that would change everything forever, the day Victoria would discover that even the most silent victims have claws. That night was the longest of my life. I lay in my bed, eyes open, watching the shadows the streetlights cast on the ceiling. My mind was a whirlwind. What had I done? Was I really going to let Florence get into that car? But then I remembered. The humiliations, the insults, the plan to steal my house, and now this, attempting to kill me. Victoria crossed a line. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about my life. At 5 in the morning, I got up. I got dressed in old jeans and a gray blouse. I tied my hair back. My hands were still shaking. I went down to the kitchen. I put on coffee. I needed to be alert. I took out my cell phone. I looked for Stella's number. I wrote a message. "My friend, if you don't hear from me in the next few hours, there is a yellow envelope hidden under my mattress. Everything is in there. The documents, the recordings, the photos. Give it to the police." I didn't send the message yet. I just left it ready. At 6:15, I heard noises upstairs. Victoria was getting up. My heart pounded like a drum. I heard her footsteps on the stairs. She came into the kitchen. She was wearing a pink satin robe. Her hair was down. No makeup yet. "Good morning, Sarah. You're up early." "Good morning, Victoria. I couldn't sleep well." "Ah." She poured herself coffee. "Are you going to the supermarket soon?" "Yes, in a little while." "In my car, right?" Her eyes drilled into me, looking for something. Suspicion, doubt. "Yes, thank you for lending it to me." She smiled. "You're welcome. Drive carefully." "Those streets are dangerous in the morning." The cynicism in her voice made me sick. "I will." She left. She went back up to her bedroom. At 6:30 sharp, the doorbell rang. I peeked through the window. It was Florence. She arrived in her old car, a white sedan full of dents. I opened the door before she could ring the bell again. "Good morning, Mrs. Florence," I whispered. "Good morning, Mrs. Sarah." She was wearing a knit sweater, polyester pants, comfortable shoes. The tired face of someone who has worked her whole life. I handed her the keys to Victoria's car. "Here they are. The car is in the garage. Thank you so much for doing this." Florence took the keys as if they were gold. Her eyes lit up. "Did my daughter really say I could use her car?" I lied, directly, looking her in the eyes. "Yes. She told me last night that it would be no problem." "It's just, she never lends me anything. She doesn't even invite me to her house when they come to visit me." The pain in her voice cut me, but it was too late to back out. "Well, today she did. Come on, the car is this way." I took her to the garage. I opened the door. There was the silver-gray sedan shining in the weak morning light. Florence looked at it with admiration. "What a beautiful car." "Yes, it has air conditioning and everything." I opened the driver's door for her. She got in carefully as if afraid of getting something dirty. "And where are you going, Mrs. Sarah?" I lied again. Change of plans. "A neighbor is going to drive me, but go ahead and use the car. Go wherever you need." "Are you sure?" "Completely. Just bring the keys back later." Florence started the engine. She smiled. A genuine smile, like a child receiving an unexpected gift. "Thank you, Mrs. Sarah. You are very kind." She backed out of the garage slowly with extreme care. I watched her drive down the street, and then I broke. I stood in the empty garage with my hands covering my mouth. What had I done? I had just sent an innocent woman out in a car with cut brakes. I ran into the house. I grabbed my cell phone. I dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency?" My voice came out trembling. "I need to report vehicle sabotage. There is a car driving right now with its brakes cut. There could be an accident." "Ma'am, calm down. What is the location?" I gave them my address, the description of the car. I told them it had just left. "Do you know who cut the brakes?" "Yes, it was my daughter-in-law. I have proof. Photos, recordings, everything." "Your name?" "Sarah Ramirez. But please send a patrol car. Stop that car before something happens." "We've already dispatched a unit, ma'am. Stay on the line." I didn't stay. I hung up. I sent the message to Stella. I added, "Call the police. Tell them to go to my house. I have to confess everything." Then I called Stella directly. She answered on the second ring. "Sarah, what's going on?" I told her. Everything. Between sobs, between gasps. "Oh my God," Stella said. "Sarah, calm down. You did the right thing by calling the police. Now stay where you are. I'm on my way." But before I could answer, I heard shouting upstairs. "Where are the keys to my car?" Victoria. She ran down the stairs, her hair wild, her eyes wide. "Sarah, where are the keys to my car?" "I gave them to your mother." She froze, pale. "What?" "Your mom came to pick me up to take me to the doctor." "I gave her your car keys like you told me to. I never said that it was for you to use." Her voice was pure hysteria, real panic. "Why are you so upset, Victoria? It's just a car." "No, no, no." She put her hands to her head. "I need to call her. I need to stop her." She took out her cell phone. She dialed. She put it on speakerphone without realizing it. "Hello?" Florence's voice sounded calm, happy even. "Mom, where are you?" "I'm in your car, honey. It's so nice. Sarah lent it to me." "I'm on my way to—" "Pull the car over now." "What? Why?" "The brakes. The car has a problem with the brakes." There was a silence. Then Florence's voice, not so calm anymore. "What are you saying?" "Stop the car. Mom, use the emergency brake. Don't use the pedal." And then we heard it. A scream. The sound of screeching tires. The metallic crash of an impact. And then silence. The phone was still connected. We could hear the stuck horn. People shouting in the distance. Victoria froze. The cell phone fell from her hand. Robert ran down the stairs. "What happened? What was that screaming?" Victoria couldn't speak. She just stared at the phone on the floor. I picked it up. I spoke with a clear voice. "Mrs. Florence, can you hear me?" Nothing, just the horn. And sirens approaching. I turned to look at Victoria. Her eyes were full of tears, of horror. "You cut the brakes," I said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. "You cut them to kill me. But your mother got in the car." Robert looked at me, not understanding. "What are you talking about? Ask your wife why she took her car to a shop in the industrial zone 3 days ago. Ask her how much money she paid the mechanic. Ask her why she insisted so much that I use her car today." Victoria collapsed onto the sofa. She was crying, screaming. "No, it wasn't for her. It was for you. It was supposed to be you." The silence was absolute. Robert looked at her as if she were a stranger. "What did you say?" Victoria realized what she had just confessed. She covered her mouth, but it was too late. At that moment, the police arrived. 2 patrol cars, 4 officers. They banged on the door. "Police, open up." I opened it. I made the call. "Are you Sarah Ramirez?" "Yes." "We need to talk to everyone present. There was a car accident, and we have a report of intentional sabotage." I pointed at Victoria. She cut the brakes. "I have proof." The next few minutes were chaos. The police asking questions. Victoria screaming that it was all a misunderstanding. Robert in absolute shock, unable to articulate a word. My cell phone rang. An unknown number. "Hello. Are you a relative of Florence Ruiz?" "I'm her daughter's mother-in-law. There was an accident. She is being transported to the general hospital. Her condition is serious." My legs gave out. I sat on the floor, serious. Florence was in serious condition. Because of me. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and despair. I was sitting in a hard plastic chair in the waiting room. My hands were shaking. My head was spinning. The police had asked all of us to go to the hospital. Victoria was in a patrol car, handcuffed, crying hysterically. Robert was in another without handcuffs, but with the lost look of someone who just watched their life fall apart. I went with Stella, who arrived just as they were putting us in the police cars. "I'll take her," she told the officers, showing her retired lawyer's ID. "She is my client." In the car, Stella didn't judge me. She just held my hand. "You did what you had to do to survive," she said. But I didn't feel like a survivor. I felt like a murderer. We had been waiting for 2 hours. The doctors didn't come out. There was no news. Robert was sitting at the other end of the room. He wouldn't look at me. He wouldn't look at anyone. His eyes were just fixed on the floor. Victoria was in a separate room with 2 police officers guarding her. A doctor finally came out. He had tired eyes behind his fogged-up glasses. "Family of Florence Ruiz." I stood up. Robert, too. "I am her daughter's mother-in-law," I said with a broken voice. "And you?" "I'm her daughter's husband," Robert replied. The doctor sighed. "Mrs. Ruiz suffered severe head trauma, fractured ribs, and internal bleeding. She is in surgery right now. Her condition is critical. The next few hours are decisive." I felt like I was suffocating. "Is she going to live?" "We don't know yet. We are doing everything possible." He left us with the heaviest silence in the world. I sat down again. Tears ran down my cheeks and I couldn't stop them. Stella hugged me. "It's not your fault, Sarah." But it was. I had given her the keys. I had sent her in that car. Even though my intention was to expose Victoria, even though I had called the police, I had gambled with a human life. And now Florence was dying because of my revenge. A detective arrived an hour later. His name was Martinez, a man in his 50s with a gray mustache and a penetrating gaze. "Mrs. Ramirez, I need your statement." He took me to a small room. Stella came with me. I told him everything, from the beginning. The wedding, the humiliations, the plan to steal my house, the mechanic shop, giving the keys to Florence. I showed him the photos of the documents, the recordings, everything. The detective listened without interrupting. He took notes. When I finished, he said, "Why didn't you call the police when you discovered the sabotage?" That was the question that destroyed me. Why? Because I wanted to expose my daughter-in-law. I wanted it to be clear that she did it. I thought that if Victoria's mother got in the car and something happened, but I called the police beforehand, you would have direct proof. Not just my photos, but a crime in progress. But you endangered Mrs. Ruiz's life. I know. The tears returned. I know, and I regret it every second. I called 911 as soon as the car left. I thought they would stop it in time. I wasn't thinking clearly anymore. After 3 years of abuse, of humiliation, of them trying to kill me, I just wanted justice. The detective closed his notebook. I understand, but I need you to understand that your actions will have legal consequences. You endangered another person even if it was to expose a crime. Are you going to arrest me? The district attorney will decide that. For now, stay available. Don't leave the city. He left. Stella took my hand. We're going to fight this, Sarah. You are the victim here. Victoria tried to kill you. But I didn't feel like a victim anymore. I felt like a villain. We went back to the waiting room. Robert was still there. Now his head was in his hands. I approached him. I sat next to him. Son. He didn't respond. Robert, look at me. He looked up. His eyes were red empty. Is it true? He asked with a hoarse voice. Is everything you said true? Victoria wanted to kill you. Yes. And you put her mom in that car, knowing it was sabotaged. I couldn't lie to him, not anymore. Yes, but I called the police. I thought they would stop her before anything happened. I didn't want Florence to get hurt. I just wanted Victoria to pay for what she did. Robert covered his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. This is a nightmare. I know, son, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner what was happening. I'm sorry I let it get this far. I'm sorry too, Mom. His voice broke completely. I was a coward. I left you alone. I let her mistreat you. I let her use you. And when she planned to kill you, my God, how did I not see it? Because you loved the wrong person. No, because I was weak. Because I chose a false peace instead of defending my mother. We sat in silence. 2 broken people sitting in a hospital waiting room, waiting for news of the third life we had all destroyed. 3 hours later, the doctor came out again. Family of Florence Ruiz. We ran to him. She survived the surgery. We managed to stop the bleeding and stabilize her, but she suffered severe damage. Hip fracture, 3 broken ribs, a lung contusion, and the head trauma. We still don't know if there will be neurological damage. But she's going to live, I asked with a desperate voice. Yes, she is going to live, but her recovery will be long. Months of physical therapy, possibly permanent side effects. I collapsed into a chair. Relief and guilt hit me at the same time. Florence was going to live. Thank God she was going to live, but her life would never be the same, because of me. Can we see her? Robert asked. She's in recovery, maybe in a few hours, but only direct family. Detective Martinez appeared again. He had papers in his hand. Mrs. Ramirez, the mechanic, confessed. Victoria Ruiz paid him $800 to cut the brake line on her vehicle. There's a record of the transaction and text messages where she gave him specific instructions. My stomach churned. What will happen to her? Attempted murder in the first degree, premeditated. With the evidence we have, including her accidental confession in front of witnesses, she is facing 12 to 20 years in prison. I looked at Robert. He was pale. And me? I asked. The detective sighed. Your case is complicated. You technically endangered another person. But you did it under extreme stress as a victim of prolonged abuse and an assassination attempt. Plus, you called 911 immediately. The prosecutor will probably consider that. My personal opinion is that you won't face criminal charges, but I can't guarantee it. I nodded. It didn't matter anymore. The only thing that mattered was that Florence lived. And my son, does Robert face charges? There is no evidence he was aware of the murder plot. Only the financial fraud, which is a civil matter, not criminal. Unless Mrs. Ramirez wants to press charges. I looked at Robert. My son. Who had failed, who had been blind, cowardly, selfish, but who was also my son. I'm not going to press charges against him, I said. Robert looked at me with tears in his eyes. Thank you, Mom. But, I continued, I want you out of my house. You and your son have 1 week to find a place." He nodded. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. "I understand. It's fair." The detective left. Stella hugged me. "You did the right thing," she whispered. But I didn't feel good. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired. That night Florence woke up, confused in pain but alive. I explained everything to her. Through tears I told her that her daughter had cut the brakes, that I had given her the keys knowing it, that I had called the police, but not in time. I expected her to hate me, to scream at me, to blame me. Instead, Florence took my hand with her bandaged one. "You saved my life," she said with a weak voice. "No, I almost got you killed. My daughter cut those brakes, not you. My daughter planned a murder, not you. You just turned the tables." She closed her eyes. "I know what kind of person Victoria is. I always knew. But I didn't want to accept it. She was my daughter." "I'm so sorry, Florence." "Me too." A tear ran down her cheek. "Please take care of my grandson. Emile is not to blame for any of this. I will care for him. I promise." And with that promise, something in me began to heal. Part 11. Robert's Awakening and the Breakup. The following days were blurry like walking underwater. Victoria was transferred from the hospital to jail. No bail. The prosecutor argued she was a danger to society. Attempted premeditated murder. The evidence was overwhelming. I visited Florence in the hospital every day. I brought her homemade food, chicken soup, pastries, things she could eat with her broken ribs. We talked about everything and nothing, about her life cleaning houses, about how she raised Victoria alone after her father abandoned them, about how Victoria always wanted more, always chased money and status, always ashamed of her humble origins. "I worked so hard to give her an education," she told me one afternoon looking out the hospital window. "I thought if she studied, if she had opportunities, she would be different. But I only made her more ambitious, colder. It's not your fault, Florence. Isn't it?" She looked at me with tired eyes. A mother always wonders where she went wrong. I understood that feeling more than I wanted to admit. Robert did not go to see Victoria in jail, not even once. He moved into a small apartment with Emile, a 2-bedroom place in a modest area far from the luxury condo Victoria had dreamed of. He sold Victoria's car, the gray sedan that almost killed me. He sold it for parts to a junkyard. He told me he couldn't stand to look at it. One afternoon he came to my house. He knocked on the door like a visitor. He no longer had keys. I opened it. He was holding Emile in his arms. My grandson had grown. He was almost 2. He was walking unsteadily, saying single words. "Mom, can we talk?" I let them in. I made coffee. Emile played in the living room with some wooden blocks that Edward had made for Robert 30 years ago. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where we had shared thousands of breakfasts when he was a child. Robert couldn't look me in the eye. "Mom, I'm here to ask for your forgiveness." "Robert, no, let me say it, please." He looked up. His eyes were red, swollen from crying so much. "I was a coward. I failed you in every way possible. I let you be mistreated in your own home. I let Victoria use you, humiliate you, steal from you. And when she planned to kill you," his voice broke. "Mom, I should have protected you. You're my mother. You raised me alone. You worked to give me everything. And I repaid you by letting you be a slave in your own house." Tears streamed freely down his face. "I knew Victoria was manipulative. I knew it." But it was easier not to see. It was easier to let her do whatever she wanted to keep the peace. And you paid the price. Son, I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I needed to tell you. I needed you to know that I finally see it. I see what I did to you, what I allowed, and I hate myself for it. I got up, went around the table, and hugged him. He cried on my shoulder like when he was a child and fell off his bike. He cried as if he could get all the poison of those 3 years out of his body. "I forgive you, Robert. You shouldn't, but I do, because you are my son, and because recognizing your mistakes is the first step to being better." We stayed like that, hugging two broken people beginning to heal. When he calmed down, I poured him more coffee. We sat down again. "What are you going to do now?" I asked. "I'm going to divorce Victoria. I already hired a lawyer. I'm going to fight for full custody of Emil. Victoria is going to be in prison for years. I don't want my son to grow up visiting his mother in jail." "And what does she say?" "I haven't spoken to her. Her lawyer says she wants to see me, that she wants to explain, but I have nothing to hear." His jaw tightened. "She tried to kill my mother. She almost killed her own mother. There is no explanation that justifies that." "Did you ever love her? Really?" He thought for a long time. "I think I loved the idea of her, the beautiful, confident, ambitious woman. It made me feel successful to have her by my side. But real love, of knowing someone deeply and accepting their flaws? No. We never really knew each other. We were just two people using each other to fill voids." It was the most mature answer I had heard from him in years. "And work the expenses." "It's hard. Daycare is expensive. The apartment eats up half my salary. But I'm learning. I'm learning to cook by watching videos online. Emil eats a lot of chicken nuggets, but we're surviving." He smiled sadly. "Now I understand everything you did for me when I was a kid, and I took it for granted. That's how kids are. They only understand when they become parents. Mom, I need to ask you another favor, and I'll understand if you say no." "Tell me." "Could you help me with Emil, not like before, not as a servant, but as a grandmother? Maybe twice a week I would pay you for the hours." "I'm not accepting your money." "Mom." "But I will help you with my grandson, with clear boundaries. 2 afternoons a week, from 3 to 7, you drop him off and pick him up, and I'll watch him here, in my house." "Thank you, Mom. But Robert, this only works if there is respect. If you ever again allow anyone to mistreat me, it's over. Do you understand?" "I understand. And it won't happen. I promise you." I wanted to believe that promise. With all my heart, I wanted to believe it. 2 weeks later, Victoria asked to see me. Her lawyer called me. "My client requests a meeting with you, at the prison. There are things she wants to say to you." I asked Stella what to do. "You don't have to go if you don't want to," she said. "You don't owe her anything." But something in me needed to go. I needed to look her in the eye and hear what the woman who tried to kill me had to say. I went on a Tuesday afternoon. The women's prison was on the outskirts of the city, a gray building surrounded by high walls and barbed wire. The entry process was humiliating. Bag check metal detector guards shouting orders. They took me to a visiting room. Metal tables bolted to the floor, plastic chairs, cameras in every corner. Victoria entered, escorted by a guard. I didn't recognize her at first. No makeup, no hair extensions, no perfect nails. In a faded beige uniform and plastic shoes. She looked small, frail, much younger than her 31 years. She sat across from me. She didn't look at me right away. "Thank you for coming," she finally said in a flat voice. I didn't respond. I just waited. "I guess you hate me." "I don't know what I feel for you, Victoria, but hate isn't the word." She looked up. Her eyes were dull, lifeless. "I wanted to apologize." "Apologize for trying to kill me?" "Yes." Tears began to roll down her makeup-free cheeks. "I was desperate, obsessed. I wanted that house. I wanted the money. I wanted the life I thought I deserved. And you were the obstacle. I gave you my home. I gave you everything. I know. And I used it against you. I treated you like trash, like something in the way. And when you didn't give in about selling," she closed her eyes, "I thought if you disappeared, everything would be easier. Robert would inherit. I would convince him to sell. We would have the money, the perfect life. But you almost killed your own mother. She completely broke down. She sobbed, her hands covering her face. I didn't want it to be her. When I knew my mom was in that car, my God, I wanted to die. I wanted the earth to swallow me. But you cut those brakes, Victoria. You. I know, and I have to live with that every second of every day. My mom almost died because of me. And now she's in the hospital with side effects that will affect her for the rest of her life. Because of me. We sat in silence. The background noise of the prison filled the space. Doors slamming, guards' voices, distant crying. Why did you want to see me? I finally asked. To ask for your forgiveness. And to tell you, Robert and Emil are better off without me. Don't fight the divorce. Don't fight for custody. Sign whatever you have to sign for Robert to keep my son. I don't deserve to be a mother. That's not for me to decide. Please. She looked at me with desperation. You have influence over Robert. Tell him not to fight. Let me go. Let me rebuild my life in here. And when I get out in 12 or 15 years, I'll be a different person. But now I'm a monster. I stood up. Victoria, I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I need to let you go so I can move on. But the consequences of your actions are yours. Robert will make his own decisions about Emil, and you will serve your sentence. I know. I hope you use these years to find the person you could have been, the one your mother tried to raise. Because that person is still in there, under all the layers of ambition and hatred. I walked to the door. Mrs. Sarah? She called out. I stopped. I didn't turn around. Your daughter is lucky to have you. I don't have a daughter, only a son, and a grandson who I'm going to help raise to be a better man than his father was. I left without looking back. On the way home, I cried. I cried for everything, for the lost years, for the injured Florence, for the Robert who had to wake up in the worst way, for the Victoria who could have been different. But most of all, I cried with relief, because finally, after 3 years, I was free. Part 12. The Reconstruction and the Final Lesson. 3 months after the accident, Florence left the hospital. She couldn't go back to her apartment. It was on the 2nd floor with no elevator. With her new limitations, the stairs were impossible. I offered her a place at my house. Sarah, you've done enough, she told me from her wheelchair. It's not enough. It will never be enough to make up for what happened. You don't have to make up for anything. My daughter did what she did, not you. But I insisted. And finally she accepted. I gave her the guest room, the one Victoria and Robert had occupied. I painted it light yellow. I bought new curtains. I bought an adjustable bed that cost me $2,000, but Florence needed it. The first few days were difficult. Florence couldn't bathe herself. She couldn't get dressed without help. Her broken hip healed slowly. I hired a nurse to come 3 times a week. With my money. The money Victoria had wanted to steal. Florence cried sometimes at night. I could hear her from my room. She cried for her daughter, for her grandson she barely saw, for her body that no longer responded as it used to. One night, I went into her room. I sat on the edge of her bed. Do you want to talk? There's nothing to say. I'm just sad. You have a right to be. My daughter is going to be in prison for 12 years. My grandson is going to grow up without a mother. And I'm going to walk with a limp forever. The doctors say I'll need a cane for the rest of my life. I took her hand. Florence, I know nothing I say will change what happened. But I want you to know that you are not alone. I am going to take care of you. And together, we are going to take care of Emil. Why are you so good to me after everything? Because we are both mothers who loved people who failed us, and because we deserve a second chance to do things right. She cried in my arms that night, and something between us healed. Robert brought Emil over twice a week as we agreed, but soon it became 3 times, then 4. Mom, can I leave him on Saturday too? I have to work overtime. Of course, son. Emil and I became inseparable. I taught him how to make small tortillas, tiny, crooked, but made by his little hands. He ate them proudly. Florence from her wheelchair read him stories. Her soft voice filled the house with tenderness. Grandma Flo, Emil called her, and me, Grandma Sarah. 2 grandmothers, 1 grandson. A house that was filling up with life again. The months passed. Florence improved slowly. She started walking with a walker, then with a cane. She never regained her full mobility, but she regained her dignity. She started to cook again. Tamales. The best I had ever tasted in my life. My grandmother taught me the recipe, she told me as we spread the corn husks. She used to say, "Tamales are made with love or they aren't made at all." We sold them on weekends at the local market. "Tamales by Mrs. Flo and Mrs. Sarah," said the sign that Emil helped us paint. It wasn't to get rich. It was so Florence felt she was contributing that she wasn't a burden. We earned $300, sometimes $400 a weekend. Florence insisted on giving me half. "It's your house, your expenses, and you are my partner, 50-50. She smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her face. 1 year after the accident, Robert came with news. "Mom, I met someone." My stomach tensed. "Oh, her name is Patricia. She's a kindergarten teacher at Emil's school. She's different from Victoria. She's humble kind, and she wants to meet you. Did you tell her everything?" "Everything." I told her about Victoria, about what happened, about how I failed as a son. And she didn't run away. She said, "Everyone deserves a second chance." I like this woman, and I haven't even met her. I met her the following Sunday. Patricia was 32, brown hair in a ponytail, round glasses, a simple floral dress, no excessive makeup, a shy but sincere smile. She brought an apple pie she made herself. "Mrs. Sarah, thank you so much for having me. Robert has told me so much about you." "I hope good things." "The best. He says you're the strongest woman he knows." I liked her from the first second. Emil adored her. "Miss Patty," he called her, and she treated him with genuine tenderness. Patricia and Florence got along well, too. They talked about recipes, about soap operas, about life. I watched my son look at Patricia with different eyes, not with the sick obsession he had for Victoria, but with respect, with gratitude, with real love. 6 months later, Robert asked for my blessing to marry her. "Mom, I'm not going to make the same mistakes. This time, it's going to be different." "How do you know?" "Because Patricia already knows you. She already knows who I am, my flaws, my past, and she accepts me. But most of all because I learned that real love isn't control, it's respect. And I respect Patricia, and she respects me. Then you have my blessing, son." They got married in a small ceremony in my backyard, just close family. Patricia wore a simple white dress that cost $300. Florence and I arranged the flowers. We had tamales for the meal. There were no luxuries. But there was real love, and that was worth more than all the gold in the world. Emil was the ring bearer, 3 years old already, serious, focused, carrying the pillow with the rings as if he were carrying the most valuable treasure. When Robert and Patricia kissed, we all cried, with joy this time. Robert didn't ask me to move. He didn't ask me to sell anything. He and Patricia stayed in their small apartment. "It's our space," he told me, "and this house is yours, your refuge, your inheritance. No one is ever going to take it from you again." 2 years after the accident, I received a letter. It was from Victoria. I looked at it for a long time before opening it. Stella was with me. "You don't have to read it if you don't want to," she said. But I opened it. The letter said, "Mrs. Sarah, I don't expect you to reply to this letter. I just need you to know that I have used these 2 years to think, to face who I was and who I want to be. I'm in therapy here in prison. I was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. It's not an excuse for what I did, but it explains why I couldn't see beyond myself, why I used everyone, why I almost destroyed everything. I found out from my lawyer that you are caring for my mother, that you gave her your home, that you pay her medical expenses. I have no words to thank you. I also found out that Emil is well, that Robert married a good woman, that my son has grandmothers who love him. I'm not going to ask to see Emil, not for now. He is better off without me. Maybe when he's older, when he can understand, Robert will decide to tell him the truth. And if he wants to meet me, then I'll be ready. A better version of me. You taught me something my mother tried to teach me all my life, but I didn't want to listen. True wealth is not in what you own, but in who you are when no one is watching. Thank you for forgiving me when I didn't deserve it. Victoria. I folded the letter. I put it in an envelope. I didn't throw it away. But I didn't answer it either. Some forgiveness is given. Other forgiveness is just held in silence. 3 years after the accident, on an October afternoon, I was sitting in my backyard. I was 71 now, my hair completely white. More wrinkles, but more peace. Emile was playing with a new tricycle. Patricia was watering the roses. Florence was knitting a sweater in her rocking chair, her cane leaning beside her. Robert was grilling steaks. My house smelled like a home again. Canella, the dog I adopted 2 years ago, slept at my feet. A rescued German shepherd that someone had abandoned. Just as I was almost abandoned. I looked at everything. I processed everything. I had lost 3 years of my life to people who didn't value me. But I got back my dignity, my house, my peace. And I found a new family in unexpected places. Florence, who arrived as a victim and stayed as a sister. Patricia, who arrived with humility and filled the spaces Victoria left empty. Emile, who reminded me every day why it's worth moving forward. And Robert, my son, who had to fall to the bottom to learn how to climb back up. "Mom," Robert called out, "the food is ready." "I'm coming, son." I stood up. My knees protested a little, age taking its toll. But I was alive. I was free. I was in my home. That night after dinner, when everyone had left and Florence was asleep in her room, I went out to the garden. The roses that Edward planted were still blooming. Red, vibrant survivors, like me. I looked at the stars. I whispered to the wind. I made it my love. They wanted to destroy us. But we're still here. The house is still standing, and so am I. A warm breeze brushed my face as if Edward was answering. I smiled. Epilogue. 3 years later. Emile is 6 now. He's in 1st grade. He gets good grades. He plays soccer on Saturdays. Every Friday he sleeps over at my house. Florence and I make him cheese quesadillas, which he devours in seconds. He loves for me to tell him stories. Not my story. He's still too young to understand, but stories about his grandfather Edward, about how we built this house, about how we planted every tree in the garden. One day, this house will be yours, I tell him. Really, Grandma Sarah. Really. But you have to promise me something. What? That you will always value it. That you will never forget that houses aren't just walls. They are memories. They are love. They are the people who live in them. I promise. And I believe him. Robert and Patricia have a little girl now. Her name is Stella, like my best friend. She's 6 months old. She's beautiful. Victoria has served her 4th year. 8 more to go. She sometimes writes to Robert. He doesn't answer all of them, but some he does, politely, without resentment. She's my son's mother, he said when I asked him why he kept in touch. Emile deserves to know that I tried to do things right with her, that I gave her the chance to change. My son grew up. Finally. Florence and I still sell tamales. Not out of necessity anymore, but because we like it. Because it makes us feel useful. Because the people at the market know us and greet us warmly. Here come the ladies, the vendors shout, and we smile. A month ago, a young woman approached me at the market. Her eyes were red from crying. "Excuse me, ma'am, are you Sarah Ramirez?" "Yes, dear, how can I help you? I read your story online. Someone shared it in a women's group. About how your daughter-in-law tried to take your house, how you survived. And I'm going through something similar. My son-in-law treats me horribly. And I don't know what to do. I thought I was just going to die here. But you survived." I hugged her right there in the middle of the market as vendors and shoppers went on their way. "Look, dear, the first thing you need to know is that your house is yours. Nobody, absolutely nobody, has the right to take it from you. The second thing is you have to be smart. Document everything. Get help! Don't stay silent. I gave her Stella's number. I told her to call her. And remember, I said, taking her hands, you are not alone. There are more women like us than you think. And when we unite, we are unstoppable. She left with hope in her eyes. And I understood why everything had happened. Not just to survive, but to help others survive too. Today, as I write this in my mind, sitting in my garden with the sun warming my face and Canella at my feet, I think about the long road I've traveled. 3 years of hell, 2 years of healing, and now, peace. It's not the life I imagined, but it's better in many ways. Because I learned that family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who hold you up when your blood lets you fall. I learned that revenge isn't always sweet. Sometimes it's bitter complicated and changes you forever. I learned that forgiving isn't forgetting. It's letting go of the poison so it doesn't kill you. And I learned that a 71-year-old woman with wrinkles and white hair can be stronger than any young person who underestimates the power of a life lived. If you are listening to this story and you identify with it, I want you to know something. You are not alone. Your house is yours. Your dignity is yours. And nobody, absolutely nobody, has the right to take it from you. Defend yourself, document, get help, and never ever give up. Because true wealth is not in what you own, it's in what you do not allow them to take. Your peace, your dignity, your home, your life, and that my love is priceless. End. Final reflection and call to action. This story is a reminder that abuse doesn't always come with yelling. Sometimes it comes with fake smiles, silent manipulation, and family members who forget that respect is non-negotiable. If this story touched your heart, if it made you reflect on your own life or that of someone you know, leave me a comment. Tell me, where are you listening from? Have you lived through something similar? Do you know someone who needs to hear this? Give this video a like so it can reach more people who need to know they are not alone. And subscribe to the Elderly Stories channel to keep hearing stories of women who refuse to be trampled. Stories of resilience, dignity, and justice. Because we all deserve a second chance, and it is never ever too late to take back what is yours. Thank you for staying with me until the end, until the next story. With love, the voices that won't be silenced.